Okay, let's do this. Hey guys, today I will be blind reacting to a video that actually popped up on my YouTube front page. The title's called 10 Devil Body Language of Cillian Murphy, Master the Art of Dominance. I just want to open up the conversation and talk about how videos like this, ideologies like this surrounding body language could be harmful for autistic folks because we get painted out a certain way because of those misunderstandings and ignorances and assumptions.
This video is very special for those who are introverted or those who were bullied in school or college. The video contains 10 devil body language cues that can make anyone fear you. First of all, anyone can watch this video if they want to make their personality more assertive or bold. I conducted extensive research to cover all the points. Watch full video to know the 10 devil body language cues, and don't skip a second, as it holds immense knowledge. First of all, watch this scene.
Until I fall asleep, spilling drinks on my settee.
Now I am 100% sure every people love his character because of his body language and his intense silence and few words. He always looked calm in any dangerous situation. Now the question is, how you can become like him.
I'm gonna try to be as open-minded as possible. Sorry if I come across judgmental. It's just I cannot help it when I hear people say these sorts of things. I just imagine young boys or men watching videos like this seriously and being like, I have to do this. I have to imitate Tommy if I want to be assertive. There's no other way for me to assert myself. You know what I'm saying? And it just makes me cringe to think that there is a person out there that is shoving who they are authentically and how they would want to respond down for the sake of acting like a fictional character because they think that that's the only way to be respected and to be assertive. I imagine there's non-autistic people that would cringe at this, but as an autistic person watching this, I am like super cringing at this. Anyways.
1. Hand-to-face gestures. Thomas Shelby used to touch his face while thinking something. Have you ever seen anyone doing this? Well, whenever I used to travel in metro and see anyone doing this attract me. Thomas Shelby knows this very well. He is using all his powers to dominate people, and one of his devil body language is hand-to-face gestures. He might touch his chin or stroke his jaw when thinking or assessing a situation. These gestures can show that he's pondering a matter or considering his options. Tommy Shelby often rubs his chin when he is thinking or when he is trying to make a decision. This can be a sign of concentration or uncertainty, but it can also be a way of buying himself time or trying to appear more thoughtful.
Okay, so if a person is thinking, then that indicates they're thinking? I don't get it.
Have you ever seen anyone doing this?
I feel like that's just a neutral thing. Someone's thinking. It doesn't have to mean they're assertive or dominant.
He is using all his powers to dominate people.
Anyways, I'm not a huge fan of this video so far. If I watch the rest of this dude's videos, I'm just gonna be cringing the whole time, and that's not really a good conversation, right? So let's jump into this video.
Body language. In this video, we'll analyze the scene which Oswald Mosley not only controls Thomas Shelby, but the entire room in which Michael Gray and Arthur Shelby are present. Oswald Mosley's body language isn't flawless, but he does have an overall aura of confidence and superiority, and he portrays this through his gaze and eye contact. He is not your typical high-status male that wants to dominate through body language. He dominates psychologically whilst keeping a friendly front.
Do not let them get inside your head.
Unlike previous villains in Peaky Blinders, Oswald Mosley is extremely diplomatic and out of Tommy Shelby's league.
So, what's the strategy? You can smile, you don't smile.
There is a specific reason why he tells Michael to smile and Arthur not to smile.
You sit, Arthur. He's done by the window.
He uses Michael and Arthur as chess pieces in his play. Michael, more mind, friendly and intelligent, non-threatening, and Arthur near the window being the muscle, vigilant for sudden moves of Moseley and ready to charge at any given moment. Having Arthur here makes it easier for 𝗪cie to apply psychological pressure on Moseley.
So, who are we meeting?
We see Arthur placing his arm on the chair. Subconsciously, individuals who feel confident or superior will place their hands or use a leg drape on a desk, chair, or object, sometimes other people, as a way of establishing a territorial claim. We've seen this before a couple of times.
Again, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that do stuff like this in order to establish their territory. But I will say, I feel like the people who do that are the people that watch videos like this and follow it like a Bible. Anyways, for me though, and anyone else who may somewhat relate to me, I put my limbs up on tables or chairs or on people because I have hypermobility. I have chronic body pain and I can't just sit in a certain position or stand in a certain position because I feel like my body is just so heavy all the time. When you're hypermobile, your joints aren't really held together to give your body support. And so I oftentimes just feel like I'm a bag of bones and my body's so heavy and I'm constantly needing to lean on something. It's just interesting to imagine me doing stuff like that and then people reading into it as Irene is trying to establish this is her territory. It would make sense as to why certain types of people throughout my life were just so weirdly aggressive to me right off the bat. It just depends on how they respond to the interpretations. Let's say a woman who interprets me as being assertive may respond to it negatively because she thinks it's off-putting and she may have inherent beliefs that women should not be assertive and it makes her uncomfortable, right? Whereas a man who sees me as being assertive may respond completely different to that assertiveness. He might think, oh, she's really confident and I respect that, whatever it is. And it's weird because there's never a conversation about it. So once they're ready to react to me, I don't even know what happened. I don't know what led them to that. And I think that's the concept that we're going to keep exploring here. Are they resting their legs or hands on something because they're trying to assert that as their territory? Or are they just experiencing fatigue or pain? And what if it's just that objective, but we attach a subjective meaning to it that is completely inaccurate? What happens then? We end up creating so many unwarranted and unnecessary issues. How much can society then progress if we didn't have these preconceived notions? See, now I'm getting way too philosophical and I'm abstracting this one thing into oblivion, but that's kind of how I process and where my mind goes.
The man we're about to meet is the Minister for the Duchy of Lancaster. He is also Deputy to the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
We see Michael fidgeting with his fingers here. This is a pacifying behavior. See, pacifying behaviors soothe us psychologically when we feel stress, anxiety, and/or internal tension. It helps us also to pass time, meaning it could signal impatience. We also see him quickly looking at Arthur. This way of looking at someone when another is talking happens a lot with the socially inferior person looking at a more socially superior in times of doubt.
Who's to say that that sort of body language of stimming and moving your hands and looking at people is indicative of a person who's lower on the spectrum of, I guess, levels? That's the interesting thing about these body language people is they, for some reason, place people in these levels of like the alpha male and the beta and things like that. Why are we attaching levels now to people's body language and how they process and exist? Just because Michael's character was sitting there and kind of playing with his thumbs and looking at people when they're talking, all of a sudden he's a beta male? I don't get where these levels come from. It's bizarre to quantify something that subjective. I genuinely don't think that the lack of normal emotional and bodily responses automatically indicates power, because it really does, again, depend on the person you're talking to. I have met so many people throughout my life, mostly men, even though I don't like to split things up into binary roles. But I do observe that there is a pattern that I see exhibited mostly in men, not all men, where they think that the lack of emotions and being completely stoic means that they are more respectable and more 𝐷𝗵𝐺 of all the positive attributes. There's a lot of men that I've met that aren't necessarily genuinely stoic. They just turn off their humanity. They don't process any emotions. They don't have any empathy. They're just numb. I feel like people oftentimes misunderstand stoicism as the lack of any sort of emotions or dysregulation. I feel like stoicism is the effective integration of all of it to a point where you're at peace with it. I've heard multiple health practitioners speak on the concept of how your body experiencing symptoms should not be seen as a bad thing. That concept is predicated on the fact that symptoms are bad, when in reality, symptoms are just your body's way to alert you of something that's off in ways that your mind is not aware of yet, right? And so once you see it that way, like this is just an alarm, you don't see it as something to avoid anymore. You see it as, I need these alarms there so that I could properly respond to it and then know how to best integrate changes into my life in order to bring more function and flow into my life. And so the lack of symptoms is actually a bad thing. The lack of any sort of response, to me, seen as a powerful trait, I think is BS, to be honest. I think people should be able to exhibit dysregulation, exhibit symptoms, exhibit nervousness, exhibit fidgeting, stimming, and not have it automatically equate to negative traits. Someone could be just as capable, just as confident, just as thoughtful and strategic, if not more, when they're able to actually honor the dysregulation and the emotions and healthily confront it and move through it, right? Rather than ignoring all of it for the sake of being completely still and putting on this image of I'm not bothered. We're human. We're gonna be bothered. We're gonna be impacted and affected. It's a matter of how do you respond to it, right? Are you going to completely ignore it, or are you going to listen to it and have it inform you so that you could apply it to your plan?
The man we're about to meet is the devil.
First thing to note is to see how he gasped for air through his mouth. When you are relaxed and sitting, usually you'll breathe through your nose. But when you are filled with discomfort, you'll need more oxygen since your body is preparing you by oxygenating your muscles for a fight or flight response. The second thing you'll notice is how heavily Tommy is fidgeting with his thumbs.
He's just stimming.
Fidgeting is a pacifying or self-soothing behavior. But why do we do this? Friends, bodily stimulation helps to placate and soothe our inner tension or apprehension. Also note this fidgeting. Both of them show it. Fidgeting is a self-soothing behavior, and there is internal tension. See, when the limbic brain is aroused, which is mentioned in the previous body language video, and we are stressed and nervous, surges of neurotransmitters and hormones such as adrenaline cause uncontrollable quivering of the hands. Fidgeting is a sign of emotional distress. The fight or flight system has kicked in and we try to calm ourselves down with stimulating body parts. Sensory stimulation on our body placates us. It calms us down after we experience something unpleasant.
Is he trying to imply that you should act like you're completely fine when you're not? He is literally giving us the science behind why humans need to fidget and stim. But then he's gonna finish this off by saying that you shouldn't do it because that indicates weakness. That doesn't make sense to me because it's objectively impossible for a human to have absolutely no dysregulation ever. It's human nature to be dysregulated somehow. There is a reason why our brains are so complex and how the brain relates to our emotions, our body, our physical environment, our spirituality and energy and things like that. Like, yes, we are going to be dysregulated. So we should regulate ourselves when we are dysregulated. I don't get it. Is he using this sort of objective science of fight or flight to support his point? Because I feel like it doesn't support his point.
Regardless of what the source of tension is, a self-soothing, pacifying behavior is a sign of internal discomfort. The third thing you can notice is how Tommy's eyes are darting all over the place.
I want to hear what he's trying to insinuate behind the stimming and the fidgeting, because that is going to be our answer as autistic folks or neurodivergent folks as to why certain people judge us a certain way.
Compare it to how his eye contact was here. Or here.
I want to know what you want.
He had the eye contact of an eagle, sharp, laser-like focus. Now compare that to this situation. Most high-status individuals are non-reactive.
There it is. There it is. There's the insinuation. Lack of body movement means they're high status, they're deliberate. Which means if you stim, if you move your body, if you have 𝗖cie h while you're processing and talking, that means you're low status and you're not deliberate. As you guys can see, this is why body language could be so harmful to us, because people watch our body language and then they attach the meaning to it, right? This equals high status, deliberate, blah, 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 blah. And then when they interpret that, they, as a human being, have their own personal biases in response to that information. How does this guy, 𝗪cie, respond to a person he assumes is high status and deliberate versus another person with that same interpretation? Because 𝗪cie might think that that's respectable, but there's also a lot of other people out there that once they determine you're high status and deliberate based off of your body language, would have very negative responses to you. Maybe they are the type of person that wants to challenge someone like you. Maybe they're the type of person that wants to sabotage someone like you, but either way, they're responding to an idea of you rather than who you actually are. And that's the harmful part. And it makes me curious, men like 𝗪cie, how does this sort of thought process affect him in his own personal life? Is every social situation plagued by all of this intricate thinking where he can't just exist and do what he wants? He has to constantly think of every situation as sending an invisible message to the other person. That to me is so unattractive and icky. And I'm not talking like unattractive in a sexual way or a romantic way. I mean unattractive in a humanistic way, that he is letting other people's perception of him dictate everything he does, but then he thinks that that makes him powerful. That to me is unattractive and delusional and icky. You have to at some point think to yourself, who is actually considered high status or low status here? The person who lets other people's interpretations of them control everything they do, or someone who just allows themselves to just live and exist however they want to because they are in control of themselves and what they want to do, and nothing anyone thinks or says about them matters because the only person that could dictate their decisions and their actions is themselves, not everyone else, right? But that's how backwards I feel like normal society is. The people who hold the most power and are the most respected are people who ironically dictate everything they think and say based off of everyone else, rather than them doing something and thinking something and having their beliefs purely because they came to that conclusion themselves upon introspection.
Now, for the people who say body language isn't accurate, they do not know what they're talking about. For example, before I said fidgeting is a sign of internal tension. Now, someone can fake that and people can say, see, body language isn't accurate. Here's where the thought process goes wrong. First of all, they want just one behavior, fidgeting. I can fake it, you can fake it, probably anyone who knows about it can fake it. Judging one behavior is almost never accurate, even though there are exceptions. So mistake number one is they don't watch a cluster. Because if someone is truly nervous, they'll show multiple behaviors aligned with the nervousness. Second mistake, they don't take the context into account. That one is obvious, so I'll leave that here. The third one, and this is the killer guys, the nail in the coffin. they do not establish a baseline for that particular person. Let me give an example, and by the way, this is how body language experts read people. Let's say I'm fidgeting a lot and you ask me a throwaway question and I keep fidgeting. You've established a baseline behavior of mine. Even though it's fake, it doesn't matter, because now you ask a question that you truly wanted to ask and bam! I stop fidgeting whilst answering the question. That is something that's out of my usual behavior now. Note it mentally and then keep asking other questions. I will continue fidgeting, but you learn something. There was a discrepancy, a clear delta before asking the question, during the question, and right after it. Now you can flash out and ask more regarding that matter. People can fake body language to a certain degree.
I agree with him in the sense where when you observe multiple different behaviors put together in a cluster and you understand what a person's baseline is, you could therefore have a little bit more context and information to work off of in order to make a more accurate inference on a person. But where I end up deviating from him is when it comes to making definitive judgments on people's body language. You may notice that someone seems fidgety. You may have assumptions that they may be nervous, but you can't definitively say that that person is nervous until you go and ask them themselves, figure out whether or not your suspicions can be confirmed. I don't think it's fair to think so highly of yourself that you can always definitively know what someone's body language means to them and what it's supposed to mean to you, or whether they're even doing it on purpose to send a certain type of message to other people. I tend to believe that you have to observe people for who they are and let them be active participants in helping you understand them more, rather than projecting your own biases and preconceived notions of how you personally are interpreting their body language. I will even go so far as to say that it could be very violating for a person to have to deal with other people's projections. That's why a lot of neurodivergent folks can feel traumatized by social interactions, because imagine being misunderstood in almost every social context to some sort of capacity, because people are reading into not only your body language, but even just the way that you're processing or responding. It could feel not only confusing, but just so overwhelming in terms of being able to catch onto what's going on underneath the surface, knowing how to properly respond to it.
Yep. Send him in.
A big sigh here. Again, nervousness in this case. Look at how Tommy's behavior rubs off on Arthur and Michael. The pinnacle of confidence is portrayed on his face. Unreactive, no tension. Also, look how he stares Arthur down as a form of establishing dominance over him. If you watch closely, Arthur is the one who looks away first here. Michael is smiling here, just as Tommy told him in the beginning.
It's the strategy. You can smile, you don't smile.
I never seem to get to meet you without your family.
As a previously high-masking autistic, I so understand how he reads into all of these intricate little details of body language. And I love seeing his observations because most people wouldn't even care about stuff like that. I think that's the main difference between being a high-masking autistic and a high-masking allistic. So, okay, this is an interesting concept, right? Because there's this idea of high-masking autistics being able to mask so effectively that they seem non-autistic.
Nice to meet you.
I said he wasn't autistic.
And I am autistic.
All right.
You're the only.
No way! No freaking way. He is a really good masker then, if he's autistic. There's just no fucking way. And there's a lot of discourse around, well, non-autistic people also mask. And it always gets really confusing because, again, people have very binary thinking, or they want to have binary thinking, when in reality, society as a whole is so dysfunctional that everyone feels the need to mask, even if you're not autistic. A lot of neurodivergent and autistic folks may put the same amount of effort in social situations to think about this stuff, but we may do it for different reasons. So instead of analyzing everyone and what messages we want to send to them to assert ourselves or to place ourselves in a certain hierarchy, we're instead using all of that mental energy in observing everyone and all of the sensory details of the environment or what they're saying or their facial expressions. And we're trying to figure out how to best respond to them so that they could hopefully positively receive us. You see the difference there? People like him are using their energy to observe how they should act in order to assert a hierarchy and place themselves at the highest of that hierarchy and gain the respect of others and gain whatever it is. Whereas a lot of neurodivergent folks spend the same amount of energy, but it's not about us and benefiting us. It's more so about benefiting others. How do I observe these people and get the information I need about them in order to best respond to them, right? It's more so serving of others. And then Cheyon's method is more so serving himself. I hope I explained that clearly enough. I just think it's interesting to make the distinction of how you could have equal effort into analyzing social situations, but have completely different outcomes and have completely different whys behind it. Because neurodivergent folks may be completely comfortable in social situations and genuinely not care about how others are perceiving them, and they're unmasked and all that kind of stuff, and they're confident in themselves. And then there's also a lot of neurodivergent folks that have been traumatized socially throughout their lives, and so they have developed all of these coping mechanisms to try to assimilate in social situations and mask. So I want to be able to hold space for both experiences and everything in between, where neurodivergent folks could very much so put just as much of that mental effort in social situations as Cheyon does. Either way, it's exhausting. Either way, I want to say just be you and just do your best to honor yourself and your values in your responses rather than thinking about other people and what their values are and how are they going to receive you. But anyways, I'm going to end this video here, even though I've only gotten through 11 minutes of this 38-minute video. Feel free to go give this video a watch for yourself. I feel like it could be a really good tool for you guys to use in terms of introspecting on yourself as a neurodivergent person and what your body language is and how other people in your life has responded to it. If today's video has been interesting for you and tickled that part of your brain, give this video a like. That really does help my channel out a lot. Make sure you guys take some time to drink some water, eat some food, and take yourself on a walk. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.